Live here tonight on the American Sim Network, it is the FEG Grand National Series from the high banks of Daytona Superspeedway. Hey, it may have rained in the real Daytona 500, but I can assure you we have a 100% clear forecast for 80 laps of action from the Daytona Speedway. And I tell you what, after last night's race, Jacob, I know you were there for that, and I know a lot of these great people out here watching tonight were there for that race as well. I'll tell you what, you ain't going to want to miss a second of tonight's action. What do you expect here, Jacob?
Well, they're different cars. Of course, they'll go a bit slower on straights and stuff like that, but I think we'll see a lot of the same thing. A lot of two-car tandems as well as even some one-car side-by-side racing. I think these drivers from last night have figured out what to do, especially for this whole weekend. Of course, they wanted to win last night, but now, of course, coming on, having another opportunity to win at the great racetrack of Daytona. It should be fun, and well, to answer your questions, I expect to see a lot. I expect to see some great racing throughout this whole night.
Well, the question is, do you think David Comstock, the number, well, I think he's in the 42 again tonight. I know he's on track. We were looking at him in practice, but he won last night in the Cup car. Do you see Comstock going back-to-back?
Very possible that David Comstock can go back-to-back. He stayed up front for most of the night, which was key. Of course, he avoided some big wrecks, which helped him, well, exactly win this race. And so that could be something to look out for, is just making sure that he avoids the wrecks if possible. And as long as he can do that, I think he has a great opportunity of winning.
Now, I just noticed another name in this race that I think we're all going to want to keep an eye on because of the name, and I'm wondering if it's the same one I'm thinking of. Do you see who's in that 22 car there, Jacob?
The 1C2 car is Jordan Hightower.
Yeah, Jordan Hightower looking good on track. Wasn't that a race car driver?
Well, good thing
I believe, yeah, it was. I think it was. Oh, no, Brandon Hightower was. And then I'm getting a little bit confused there. So, yeah, Brandon Hightower. So, I would wonder if he's related to Brandon Hightower, and that's where I'm getting the name from, you know?
Yeah, exactly, but he might be a name to look out for tonight's race. Just, of course, we'll see where he lands on the speed charts tonight for qualifying. But, of course, half the time qualifying doesn't necessarily matter too much here, as, well, Hightower's in a good position in about 15th place is where he'll qualify, 16th actually. Well, he keeps going down. But still, talk about a long race like we said. Yes, 80 laps. It is a little shorter than last night's race, which means drivers will be trying to get to the front faster than we saw last night. But given that, you can still start in the back of the pack and run your strategy and, well, be able to have a push at the end for a win.
Yeah, that is for sure. And right now, look at Jim Ott there, back there in 20th place. Scott Formosa, Don Runkle. I'm looking at some names that I do recognize as well. I saw Thomas Conetti. A name that I definitely recognize from Monday nights last year. He's in the 67 now. So, familiar with that name. I think he'll have a good race here. I definitely think he's good on the super speedways. We saw him in the Cup car. Kind of interesting to see what he'll do in this Xfinity car. Never seen him race one of these.
Exactly, but he's one that I know AMS switched to the Xfinity car, so he could also be getting used to that one if he's still, of course, in that league for Monday nights. But talking about it, it's just a different style car. I've raced these before, and guess what? These cars can also take a beating. Yes, you get some front end damage, but at that same exact time, it won't necessarily slow you down too much. You can get those repaired in no time, but these cars can take some damage before they're really hurt, basically, on the racetrack.
Yeah, that is for sure. Richard Beasley had a great run last night in that Tide machine. Well, he's looking for another good night. Hasn't taken a lap in qualifying, and he won't get a chance at it, unfortunately. That is how the field is set. Jordan Hightower, of course, also running the iRacing eNASCAR Pro Series, the inaugural season in 2010, and then half of the season in 2011. So a former pro driver in our midst tonight. So it should be great fun to see what he does with these guys on track as they are gridded up, getting ready to go racing from the World Center of Racing, the one and only Daytona Superspeedway. Now, what do you expect to see out of this race here tonight?
Well, I expect to see a lot of the same drivers that we saw that were successful, especially up front, to really team up and do that exact same thing. Tommy Ryan, it gets on pole tonight. I believe we saw him last night, and he finished pretty well. So I expect to see a lot of these drivers, now that they got their nerves settled in from last night, to just be able to, well, race clean and race for a long time. Probably get some green flag pit stops, maybe one early caution for sure. But after that, of course, we will see probably around 15 or 20 laps to go. We'll see maybe a couple more cautions as drivers are just trying to get up front. So watch out for a couple of strategy play calls and maybe an early caution, and all those drivers from last night to team up with each other and head to the front.
Yeah, a bit of a shorter race tonight, only 80 laps. Let's take a look at the starting lineup. Of course, Tommy Ryan and Jody Green, row 1. Row 2, of course, is going to be Chad Coleman, Randy Yoakum. Row 3, Steven Ritter and Jordan Hightower. Row 4, Mike Kelly and Brian Fallon. Row 5, Tyler Stevens, Jeff Ryan. Row 6, Nick Silver and Brian Macklin. Macklin had a great run last night. Bonwell and Parker, another two drivers that had good runs last night in row 7. Robert Barber and Chris Gibu, in row 8. Row 9, Jason Lance and Ryan Howard. Row 10, Thomas Conetti and Michael Whitaker. And row 11, Joey Gattina and Mike Monstetti. Or is that Monsty? Monsty, I'm going to go with. Row 12, David Comstock, Ray Jackson. Row 13, Jim Ott, Jason Arson. Row 14, Thomas O'Leary, Scott Formosa, Bob Gilwater, and Julia McLean. Row 15, John Mustaine Jr. and Don Runkle. Row 16, row 17, Trey Edison and Daniel Falkenham. Row 18, Chad Cole and Ronnie Royal. Row 19, Richard Beasley and Milt Mattis. And row 20, Greggy Bradberg and Chris Stamper. Gail Brooks, John Wilco, and Mark Cretin rounding out your field 22 rows deep. Jacob, what do you expect to see on this opening lap? I tell you what, I think we're in for a whole lot of action.
Exactly. Both lanes will try and work on each other at the start of this race for sure. And maybe we'll see a couple of two-car tandems, but drivers feeling each other out for sure. Maybe an early caution, but hopefully we can stay green for a little long in this race. And, well, we're in for, like you said, we're in for a treat for this race. And I do expect a lot of drivers to hook up early and really just stay behind one another and really work that outside-inside line. Maybe seeing a third line on that really close to the wall. So it should be interesting for sure.
Yeah, cars are pacing right now. And pace car about to go down. There he goes. There's the green flag. We are racing. Great start there. I tell you what, that was an awesome awesome start for these drivers as they are out and away now, and it is all led by the inside driver of Tommy Ryan right now. They are 2 by 2 as they run. A little bit different than the Cup cars where that outside line didn't get a good start. Remember, on the Cup cars, that outside line was pretty much dead from the word go, and it took them a few laps to come into play.
Yeah, exactly, and that's been pretty interesting. Look at the 60 car of Jody Green being able to get out on that outside line, having a bit of a gap in between him. That's something that, if you noticed on Saturday night, Saturday during the day on the Xfinity race, I kind of mentioned that before. Noah Gregson on that restart was able to do that exact same thing. So that outside line is not going to be dead in these Xfinity cars for sure, and that's going to make for some exciting pack racing, especially on that outside line. Look for them to be key coming to, well, probably the end of the race.
Yeah, Jody Green had a fantastic start, and those two leaders are establishing their own breakaway on their pack, about a car length each. And I bet you we're going to see Randy Yoakum and Chad Coleman there on their bottom lanes, respectively, both fighting back, both trying to get to those back bumpers of the two lead cars. Looks like Jody Green's actually going to step out to the lead right now just a little bit, not by much, though.
And remember, one big thing is those drivers will have to make sure that, well, their cars aren't necessarily their engines aren't going to explode, is what I'm trying to say here, because, well, they'll just have to keep an eye on that oil pressure to make sure that they're not right up behind, or when they are right up behind their opponent's rear bumper, that their engine won't overheat. So that's going to be a key thing. We'll probably see a lot of, well, like we're seeing right now, just a little bit of width between every driver.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's not just the leaders. You look at everyone there, there's a little bit of a gap. Not quite of an extreme, though. If you look in second place, fourth place, and so on back, we can even go all the way back to, say, Jeff Ryan in that number 10 spot. And you'll even notice there's a little bit of a gap between his car and the guy in front and the guy behind. Look at that 10 car up on the outside, good wrench snap-on machine. Looks like these cars, they don't go bumper to bumper as easily as the Cup car does.
Yeah, exactly. It is a little tougher, as we can tell, to get up between the driver's bumper, but that is nice. We talk about it going towards the different series, and a lot of drivers have also said this on the sim, is that, well, these cars drive completely different. And what I mean by that is, well, the Xfinity cars, basically, it's more about the driver behind the car. Really, it takes more skill to drive these than it does the Xfinity, or it does the Cup cars, is what I've heard too. So that's something that is pretty interesting, and that's why we're seeing the drafting that we're seeing tonight. It's just like we said from that 2014 era of the Cup cars. This is kind of the way that they're driving right now.
Yeah, and you notice these cars, they are lower downforce. Look at how small that spoiler is. Low downforce race car, so you're not able to suck up as well. And of course, the car doesn't want to stay as planted to the ground as, say, it would in the Cup car or even the truck. So it's going to be interesting to see how these race tonight, and then compare that to what we're going to see tomorrow night in the FEG Truck Series. So that'll be its own interesting thing to watch. Tommy Ryan, though, still leading the show, 5 laps into this race now. And I think it might be a drag race to the line, and I think Jody Green led that lap. That might officially have been their first lap led of the evening, and I'm going to go with no at the moment. I think Tommy Ryan had it, but, I mean, think about how close that was there.
Yeah, exactly. It was very close from my perspective as well. Just Jody Green did not have enough on that outside line. He still kind of doesn't have enough on the outside line, as the inside line is just picking up pace constantly. And, well, it's been interesting to see that, well, Tommy Ryan has been able to keep this lead, even though the pack is kind of spread out just a little bit more, especially from behind the leaders, which is the main thing, because, of course, they're leading this pack to the line every single time.
Yeah, I think the most interesting thing to note, though, at the moment, we are only 7 laps into this race, or we're nearing 10 laps into the race, I want to say, and they are still, for the most part, 2 by 2 by 2 by 2 by 2 by 2. And in the Cup car, you didn't have that. These guys wanted to get spread out. The cars themselves wanted to get spread out. I'm sure the drivers want to get spread out right now. They're probably thinking, hey, we're bunched together like this. If one driver makes a slip, we're going to have a massive crash. But these race cars, they don't want to get spread apart. They like being together in a pack like this, and it's just the nature of the way the car is. I think that's very interesting, because it calls back, the old style of the NASCAR Cup car. You go back to 2010. I'm going way back to 2010 there. That is 10 years ago. And you look at the way that car raced in the Daytona 500, the Sprint Cup Series COT, which is kind of similar to what these nationwide cars are based on. They're still based on the COT platform, and you get a similar style of racing out of that car. And I think that's a very interesting thing to see. And coming from the drivers that raced the Cup car last night, I think that's something they've got to adjust to, because you had drivers like Falkingham and Comstock and Bonwell, who were able to hook up and run two-car tandem and kind of run away with it. Well, not run away with it in the sense that they'd be ahead by 20 seconds, but that they could make these big runs, and I don't think that's something we're going to see tonight.
Yeah, exactly. And the big thing also is they're staying green flag, and you talk about the way it has been different. Well, the laps on your tires will be interesting as well. You talk about not having as much downforce too. Coming out of turn 4 for sure has been a major key. A lot of drivers from the Cup cars saying as their tires had worn on, it was a little tougher to really get that grip coming off of turn 4. The car wanted to slide out of the exit basically, if I'm not mistaken. So that's something to watch out for as these tires do age on, because as quicker it is, you don't think that you'll really have to handle it that much. But, well, guess what? You're going to have to think, yes, I do. I have to be on my toes the whole time to make sure that, well, I'm ready just in case the car wants to slip out from under me.
Well, I think another important factor for drivers to think about tonight is the fact that they can't fall back. You saw last night, a driver could fall back to 30th place and come back through the field, and they could do that pretty quickly because it was either single file or you had 2-car trains or 3-car trains for the most part last night. Look at the field tonight. You have drivers like Josh Bonwell stuck in 12th place. He's not got a lot of room to move. He can go back to maybe 14th and go probably as high as 8th because of just the way the pack's moving. One pack gets a little bit of momentum, the other pack loses momentum, so on and so forth, as the scales, twist. But these cars, you're not getting that ability to go through the field. You're pretty much stuck where you are, and that's a problem for the drivers because if they fall back, they're in trouble.
Yes, and this is going to be fun because you talked about it now. It's all going to play out in the pit lane. That's going to be strategy and where you end up. So that's going to be an interesting turn of, well, just events for these racers out here tonight. And like you said, yes, it's very frustrating when you can't go anywhere on a super speedway. I know I've had that frustration before, but these drivers have to remember to stay calm. There's still plenty of racing remaining. And yes, if they keep this up, they can go green flag pit stops and maybe mess with the way that the field will come out after all the pit stops have been cycled.
Yeah, and that's going to be, I think you hit the nail on the head right there. That's going to be where a lot of ground is won. And I think that's going to be where a lot of ground is lost on pit lane here tonight. Green flag pit stops, if they happen, it's going to be important because you're not able to move too much in a pack, but you're going to move a lot on pit lane. And different pit strategies, too. Think about that. 2 tires versus 4 tires, full tank of gas versus a half tank of gas when it comes down to the end of the race. It's all going to be a matter of pit strategy here tonight. That's what I think.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with you on that because, yes, half a tank of fuel compared to a full tank of fuel will matter tremendously. And that big thing also is, will we see a green-white checkered as well? That's going to be a big thing because if a couple of drivers end up, well, it kind of happened just like you said with a half a tank of fuel and other drivers have a full tank of fuel and are able to make it on those extra, well, green flag runs, then those other drivers that decided for the half tank of fuel, guess what? That strategy has been, well, just terminated basically because they'll have to go back down pit lane, grab enough fuel to just finish this race out. So that will really just be interesting to watch in the end.
Yeah, new leader right now. It is Chad Coleman at the moment leading the show. He's gotten to the front, so good run for Chad Coleman. We saw him lead a lot last night.
Yes, Chad Coleman, one of the racers to look out for tonight. He's wanting a win as well. Well, several other drivers that are in this field, like one driver especially that had an opportunity last night too, kind of back in the field, but Josh Bonwell as well. And that's a driver that we have to look out for in midfield, but talk about leading that race.
Got one driver going a lap down. I'm not sure who that was.
I believe that's Scott Formosa. That's 2 laps down.
Yep, that 53 machine. No, that's Trey Edison.
Oh, Edison. Oh, yes, it is Trey Edison. Scott Formosa's already 3 laps down now. So.
Yeah, Edison's only gone a lap down now. He'll be, at the moment, I think, the lucky dog car, if we were to get a caution at this very moment. So Edison's got to just kind of hop in line, you know, and just kind of ride it out.
Exactly. That's the best thing that you can do, is just ride it out, catch that draft. As long as you don't have damage, you should be able to pick up to the draft and just, well, yeah, like you said, ride it out, because you never know what will happen. Most likely, we will see a caution flag hit, and I'm expecting to see one probably 30 laps or so into this run. We could even go no caution and go all the way through with 80 laps. So these drivers can surprise us in any way, shape, or form. So it could be exciting. We could see no cautions. We could see a couple of cautions for sure. And, well, like we said, according to Trey Edson, he wants a caution to get that lucky dog back, and that's kind of why I brought that up.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say, you think about caution flags, and I was going to say, when do you think we see our first one of the evening? At the moment, it looks like we might go pretty long without it. We've gone 16 laps, and these guys, I tell you, they're not running all single file. They have been, for the most part, 2x2.
Yeah, they've been 2x2 for the most part, but the big thing is they're not trying to side draft each other. That's normally when we do see Rex's win. Drivers decide to pin each other down on the apron or come back up, and sometimes, of course, getting loose out of their line or checking up. We haven't seen a lot of that so far. They're staying very civil, and that's been the most impressive thing. Like I said, we talked about sometimes you get very anxious or annoyed that you're just in line and having to go that same exact speed, not being able to really just pass anybody, go forward in your position. And so that can sometimes make drivers a little upset, and shockingly, it really hasn't.
And look at these drivers all the way at the back of the field. You kind of look at Mark Creighton, Joey Gattina, Chad Cole, Runkle. They are all going, they are single file, and I think they've got interest and strategy going after last night. They saw the amount of carnage, and they're probably thinking, hey, maybe the best thing to do, ride it out single file, ride it out at the back of the field, and wait for our opportunity towards the end of the race. The only problem I see with that, like I said earlier, it's going to be hard to go from the back to the front, I think, in my opinion.
Oh, and I think you're correct on that. We just have not seen a lot of movement towards the front. We've seen about one lead change so far in this one, and that came pretty early in this one. But Chad Coleman basically leading this race now, when it was, well, Jody Green. No, check that, actually. It was Tommy Ryan who was leading there. So just one lead change and not a lot of passing going on throughout this whole race is showing that it's just, like you said, so difficult to pass. So we're just going to kind of drill that into the viewers' brains. It's going to be so difficult, so don't expect to see a lot of passing going on so far, and it's going to come down to strategy.
I think Chad Coleman might actually be the first lead change of the night. We'll take a look at our stats information on that, and of course I have that set up wrong, so we'll take a look at that later. But I think we may have seen only a handful of lead changes, if any. And one thing of note that I found interesting, you saw Jody Green for a few laps there was actually falling back, and that had Ryan and Coleman going single file for, a little while. Which was interesting to watch. So right now, Chad Coleman has a command on the field. You think that's going to stay? Because I tell you, like we said, he's been good all throughout speed weeks, and this is the final race of the week. He's going to want to cap it off and win.
Of course he is going to want to cap it off and win, but look at the outside line still. Really, they kind of gained some speed is what I was trying to say here is, well, Jody Green might end up leading this lap and take that back, actually, as Chad Coleman was able to survive on that one. So, yeah, it's interesting. Yes, he does want to cap it off and win, but every single driver, especially up front so far, does. And so don't expect to see, or just expect to see a couple of other fights throughout this field as that outside line actually is kind of falling back.
Yeah, look at Jordan Hightower, though. We talked about him a little bit earlier on in the show, pretty much towards the start. And he's having a really good run of things right now, 6th place. He's got to kind of move through the field, though, I got to say. He's sort of stalled out a little bit. Not that that's much of his control. That, like I said, these cars, they're not moving much. The lines don't move too much. So unless he really starts a third outside lane and has guys go with him, I don't think Hightower's going to move too much. But he's having a good run, I'd say, 6th place right now.
He is definitely having a good run on 6th place. This car, 22 car, looks fantastic of Jordan Hightower's. And, well, there's no need for him to really push and try and pass these other cars except for just staying behind. Like we said, he's in a really great position to make something happen.
Look at that 5 car there stuck in the middle. That is the 5 of Chris Gibu. And he is stuck in the middle to the outside. He's got, what is that, Jim Ott and Josh Parker. And to the inside, Jason Lance. So that's an interesting combination he's running with it. You see, this might be where you see a crash. Look at Comstock now trying to make a 3rd lane all by himself.
Exactly, that's an interesting move from Comstock, but of course he wants to try and just, well, get something happening, make something happen, especially, well, he could probably get a couple of drivers to join him, but no one's really budging to try and make a 3rd lane, so we'll have to go back into that 2nd lane.
Yeah, but he did pick up 3 spots. He did pick up 3 spots doing it. So David Comstock was able to advance his position. We're closing in on 30 laps in. You think some of these drivers are getting a little bit impatient, maybe?
Oh, for sure. I mean, you're talking about we're closing in on close
halfway.
to yeah, exactly, close to halfway. And, well, talk about being closer and closer to that halfway mark. Yes, of course, these drivers are going to get impatient. They know that they need to start making some moves happen, even if they have to try and venture out on that 3rd lane or something of that. Maybe move into the outside lane if you're on the bottom, or in the inside lane if you're on top. And so it just goes back and forth. There's a lot of drivers. Now we're starting to see a couple of them checking up.
Yeah, we're seeing these guys really start to wiggle around now. And I'm seeing a breakaway between these 2 packs, really on that bottom lane between the 07 car of Josh Bonwell and then, what is that, the 76, or rather the unmarked car, Robert Barber. So you're seeing that breakaway, and I think that's where you're going to start to see these guys get really impatient. As these breakaway drivers, they're going to want to stay with that lead pack. I think that's where you're going to see these guys start to maybe make a move that might cause an incident here.
Yeah, exactly. Just one wrong move, as you and I both know, can be the end of not only your day, but of multiple drivers' days. So, interesting of who will make that move. Just checking up always in general can lead to some bad things, but can also lead to some good things for you. Just trying to make that move, cool off your engine just in case it's close to being overheated. So that's always a good sign. But of course, moving to the back of the field, just like we talked about, not going to be your friend here, but maybe moving on into a single car lane, just like we saw the 42 do exactly that. Or David Comstock, he picked up about 2 or 3 positions, so we could see a couple more drivers trying to do that move.
Well, yeah, you see a driver like Joey Katina, though, still in the back of the field. like I said, I think he actually has a good strategy going. I know I said earlier in the show that, hey, it's going to be hard to move up through the back of the field, and yeah, I think it's going to be. I think it's definitely going to be a hard move, but I think it's not a horrible idea, because if they get a big wreck up there, if they get a big wreck towards the front of the field, it's going to be good for, you know, drivers like Katina, like Chad Cole, Don Runkle, John Wilco, and Bradenberg, Stamper, for them to be in a position to where they won't be involved in that, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And most likely the wreck, if I had to guess, will come up front, because a lot of drivers will be more aggressive trying to advance their position. That's normally how it has happened for, well, this whole weekend too, and that's, well, it will just be interesting. So the back of the field might still be the place to be at the moment.
Yeah, right now, side by side for the lead, Chad Coleman has taken over the reins of the lead from Tommy Ryan. He's led for the last 15 laps. When do you think we see these guys, you know, start to pit?
Well, I think we'll see these drivers start to pit when, well, their tank hits about 5 or so laps of fuel remaining, because they don't want to give up any of this position, basically. You don't want to pit too early. You want to make sure that you can have enough fuel to make it on green just in case, or have enough fuel to basically have one more pit stop remaining if these cars kind of are built up that way. Don't necessarily know too much about these Xfinity cars and their fuel tanks, but that's kind of when you want to pit, is when you know that you'll have about an opportunity to either have to pit one last time or pit no more times.
And right now, 30 laps in at the stripe, Brian Fallon has been kind of slowly working his way through the field. I say that. Started 8th, currently runs 8th, but he fell back a little bit. Again, like I said, the way the packs move, he inched his way back, and he's inched his way forward, but you notice that not a lot of movement. I bet you go through the field. Let's take a look, actually. Brian Macklin, he started 12th. Well, he fell back to 14th, but again, watch as that inside line moves, or the outside line moves forward, he'll creep back to where he started. Josh Bonwell is currently 12th. He started 13th. David Comstock, I'd say Comstock's a big mover. He started 23rd. He's up to 13th, gained about 10 spots. So Comstock's doing really well. Tyler Stevens, on the other hand, he's right where he started. He's in 9th and started 9th. Nick Silver started 10th, or started 11th and is in 10th. So you look at drivers like that. Jason Lance falls back of where he started. Josh Parker falls way back of where he started, and you have a situation like that, you know. So I think Daytona, the big thing we're seeing here tonight, these cars, they're not moving. They're staying pretty much where they started.
Yeah, exactly. And that's normally what we can kind of expect from this league, especially when they go to these super speedways. And going back to the bigger movers of this race, David Comstock, of course, he wants to win, so he's going to try and make as many moves as possible. He's one of, in my opinion, a driver that will probably, if not winning the championship, will be right up there in that Final Four come Phoenix. I was about to say Homestead there, but Phoenix will be our final race of the season. So in both leagues, to be exact, will be an interesting driver to watch out for. And we'll just going down the list of field, it's a fantastic group of guys racing.
Yeah, that is for sure. And you know, it's not to say that the race is boring, because it's still exciting. There's still a lot of strategy going on, and I think a lot of the strategy, like we said, it's all going to be on pit road. I think that's going to be incredibly fun to watch, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't get any better than this. Talking about, I remember a good story, and this was from my father when he played NASCAR 2003. He was in a league, and they would race at Darlington in those old cars as well. And they went green all the way through, and it came down to whoever saved enough fuel at the end from, of course, green flag pit stops. So talk about the excitement for at least us that it will be. It's pretty stressful for these drivers to make sure, okay, I need to pit now, or I need to pit at this lap in order to make it here. And of course, you're not necessarily thinking of that when you're driving, but when your pit crew basically says about 5 laps of fuel remaining, you start to think, okay, if I pit now, I might have to pit again if we do go green all the way through, or I'll have to save this much fuel and I might have to drop down to the back of the field, and that might be a problem for a chance at least a decent finish.
Yeah, look at Josh Parker now. He went right by Daniel Falkingham on the outside line. He said he's tired of running in line. Now he's trying to make a breakaway on a third lane all by himself. And unfortunately, as quickly as he rises, it looks like he's going to fall. He gained at most about 1 position at the moment. Looks like he picks up a lot of speed in the corner and just kind of loses it down the straightaway. These guys, they're fast in a line down the straightaway. But look, here goes David Comstock. Comstock says, you know what? I want to go too. And he's going to go with Josh Parker.
And that will be interesting. Just like we said, now kind of starting with a third lane. 3 drivers now on that outside lane closer to the wall. Almost 4 drivers, actually. And that's pretty impressive in there.
Oh, man. Well, you knew that was bound to happen. These drivers getting impatient. And there you go, Josh Parker from 16th to about 39th. Big pile up. That's a good majority of the field involved, too. It's about easier to count the drivers not involved in that incident. See if 4 car got a piece of it. Looks like the 2, the 35. 53 car, we were talking about him earlier. That is, who is the 53? That is Trey Edison. He was looking for a lucky dog, potentially. Josh Bonwell, man, he has been unlucky this speed weeks. He got a big chunk of it. Well, that could turn this into a one-stop race. That could potentially turn this all into a one-stop race. What do you think, Jacob?
Very possible that this could be their only stop for sure. I think it could, well, run about close to, well, you run 50 laps on just these tires alone. If you want to stretch it, you probably can on iRacing. And then, of course, the fuel tanks are pretty big in these cars, especially given the fact that, like we've said, they kind of stall out, and so you can kind of save some fuel going at half throttle as well. So it can potentially be a one-stop race for sure.
And right now, all the guys down pit lane. What driver you think we ought to get a word in with when they come off of pit road?
Let's go with Randy Oakham, sitting 6th position here, started 4th.
All right, we'll take a look at Randy Oakham here. We'll pull him on up. If we can find him. There he is, Unacceptable Racing. Get him up on in here. Randy Oakham, if you got a copy on us. Randy, you there?
Yes.
All right, well, how is that car running for you right now, my man?
Not too bad. It's we're feeling a little bit of lightness in the front end, a little loose turning in, kind of sketchy on that. But other than that, not too bad right now.
Yeah, 10-4 on that one. You got a fax machine going on in the background there, I heard?
Oh, no. That's my ringtone on my phone. It freaks a lot of people out.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought it was like an old fax machine. I'm like, what are you getting sent to you? Anyway, but, you know, what do you think of the racing so far? And, you know, we've been commenting on it up here in the booth. It doesn't look like you guys are able to make a lot of forward progress. A lot of you guys are staying right about where you started. You know, either gain a spot or lose a spot or two, but for the most part, right at where you started.
Well, basically, you know, that's just trying to be safe at this point. We saw some cars go 3 wide behind us, and I think that's what probably caused this caution. with the lightness in the front end and not being able to put the steering input in it, going 3 wide right now is a little sketchy.
All right, now what do you expect towards the end of this race? You think you guys can make it on that pit stop from here on out, or are you guys expecting one more pit?
That's something that we're going to have to calculate real quick here and see what we can do.
All right, well, thank you for talking to us. We'll let you get back down with your team.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, guys.
All right, and that was Randy Yoakum, driver of the number 8 machine. Beautiful paint scheme, 5-hour energy car. Tommy Ryan re-inherits the race lead. You know he's happy about that. And Randy Yoakum not giving up any secrets on whether or not he can make it to the end, and I imagine that's because A, if he can't, he doesn't want any driver listening to it to know that, and B, if he can, he equally doesn't want any driver listening to it to know that.
Most definitely. Of course, it always comes down to strategy, and, well, it's smart. You don't want to give anything up. You know, of course, let's say if we were to talk to the leader, we would know, because if he comes into pit lane, most likely everyone will follow. If not everyone following, then most people will pit that next lap to not really give any distance or advantage, especially on a super speedway. So not really giving any hints is a perfect way to just make sure. And I think they can make it to the end. Like I said, he's in a good position where he can just let off and save some fuel.
All right, well, we'll see Tommy Ryan come down pit lane. He'll top it off. That might be a winning strategy here.
Well, as a driver that we just talked to, Randy Yoakum, coming down pit lane.
Yep, I think the strategy is they want to make it to the end, and maybe that's their calculation, knowing they can do it if they pit. Not saying I know that's what they're doing on purpose, but, just a thought, as they say.
Exactly. A couple of other drivers doing that exact same thing, too. If I had to guess, that 05 car. Well, let me just double check here. Yeah, that 05 car coming into pit lane was not a lap down, so a lot of these drivers just deciding to also top it off with fuel.
All right, so Chad Coleman up front with Steve Ritter, but Jordan Hightower, the man out front, he elects the outside lane. Well, no, I think he elected the outside lane. That or Ritter's the race leader.
According to iRacing, it does say Steve Ritter, but that you never know because they could have been the first one across the start-finish line. So either way, it should be a great restart.
That is for sure. Here we go, getting ready to go green. So I'll let you get the green here, Jacob.
All right, sounds good. As the pace car just about set, there it goes into pit lane, and we are back racing here at Daytona for the second time tonight.
A great restart for these drivers out and away, and I bet you we're going to see them go side by side for a majority of the time here. And like I said, I have no guarantee, of course, but I got a feeling that the guys that pitted with one to go, I think that's their plan to make it to the end.
Yeah, it's a great plan indeed. Just, yes, of course, they might not necessarily move forward a lot, but there's still plenty of racing remaining. We're still just about halfway now, as it says 39 laps, so very close to just halfway. So still plenty of racing remaining.
Yeah, right now, single file, though, it looks like at the moment. And that's kind of interesting to see them go single file. As for the longest time, they were 2x2, but it looks like that outside line, maybe they thought, hey, we had that crash, we don't want to get into it again.
Yeah, talking also to Randy Yoakum helped us understand kind of the balance of the car and what they're going through. and it is a little, you can't necessarily put a lot of steering input into the car without it spinning out. So that's a big key on this one, especially also having worn out tires. So that must have been an interesting restart for the drivers who decided not to necessarily pit for tires as well and just for fuel, which is a smart decision. But at that same time, if you're like me, well, then you want that extra grip, especially on a restart.
Yeah, right now, Steven Ritter is leading. This is the first time we've seen him out front. This is the first time. And you know what? Look at who's up front. Joey Gattina in 6th place. And what did I say? I said I think that they had the right idea running at the back and being their own little separate group because they knew a big wreck was going to happen. They didn't know when, but they knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, the big thing was always staying out of trouble, staying out of that, of course, wreck. And, of course, now they find themselves up front in that lead pack, which is always key. And, yeah, you're correct on that. They were just in a great position. And look at that now, just all in a perfect position to go out and try and win. Look at another driver as well. The number 11 car of Richard Beasley finds himself in 9th position too. As yes, we do kind of see a little bit of a breakaway from that 3-car field up front, but going back to 9th position, that's another driver that we saw last night having a great run. And so yeah, Richard Beasley right there, just in a perfect position.
Yeah, Beasley was potentially in position to win that race last night. Unfortunately, didn't quite come to fruition. But tonight, hey, new night. You got just under 40 laps to go. Anything can happen at Daytona. And I want to speak about drivers with the potential to win. I know I'm going to talk about that 14 car again because he said at the beginning of Speed Weeks 2 weeks ago, I said, what's your goal? He said, my goal is to get out there and lead every lap and win. Well, unfortunately, he has not yet done that, and unfortunately, he's not going to lead every lap, but hey, he still can win the race, and he's running in 6th, so he's still got a lot of potential to do that, you know?
You know what you and I have said before multiple times, the most important lap to lead isn't that first lap, it is that final lap. And so, well, I mean, he's still got plenty of time to lead that final lap and get that victory.
Yeah, he got a lot of race left to do it, too. Let's take a look a little further back in the field. We'll take a look at drivers like John Wilco. And again, you look at Wilco with Chad Cole, Jason Lance, and now the 53. The 53, of course, being a few laps down, but he's with his original group of drivers again, except the 53, but he's with the 76 and the pink Kyle Busch car of Chad Cole. And that's the same group that Katina was with earlier, where they were running back of the lead pack. And again, I'm going to say it. I think they're doing a very smart thing because you still have just over or under 40 laps to go. You have the potential for a big wreck still. And you don't want to get caught up in that. You want to be there for the final 10 laps. So I think by racing back there the way they are, I think they're putting themselves in a pretty nice spot for the final few laps of this race.
Yeah, exactly. And, well, like you said, probably another opportunity for a major wreck. So still being in that back of the field could be key. And also, of course, being in that lead, because as we get later into this race, we'll start to see more blocking, more drivers trying to, well, just advance their position and going through. And now we're seeing that second lane basically on the outside coming into play once again with just a bigger group. That inside line still has more cars, but just closer together has been key.
Look at Nick Silver. I want to talk about Nick Silver for a moment because he started in 11th. We haven't really talked about him all night, but look at here he is, second place at Daytona. He's having a great run.
Exactly, what a run he is having. Like you talked about, 11th position for the start. Now he's in second place, just in that awesome, I believe, Diet Coke paint scheme, maybe Coca-Cola paint scheme. Either way, it's still a great one. But he is in a good place, just being able to push Steve Ritter along for the time being, staying on that inside line as long as he's just there minding his own business and just hitting his marks. He should be good to go. Now, of course, going back to strategy, what is his strategy for this race? Will he have to come down pit lane one last time? Who knows? We'll just figure it out in the end.
Brian Macklin to the race lead. We saw him lead a good bit last night. He had a good shot to win it. Got caught up in one of the wrecks towards the end. That would be pretty cool to see that 30 car go to victory lane.
Yes, Brian Macklin, another driver that was fantastic last night. He'd get caught up in a final wreck that basically ended his night. That would be fantastic.
Oh, lap car going to be a factor here.
To get to victory lane. No lap car being a factor.
Look at the 17, Gregory Bradenberg. And you want to talk about other drivers that had a front to the back or back to the front. He started 39th, practically dead last, up to 5th. That's a good run. Loving that. What a story that would be if he wins here tonight. That is the 17 machine. And Jackson Royale in the chat looking for Ronnie Royale to do good here tonight. Ronnie started 36th, is up to 12th. So what do you think about Ronnie's chances?
Well, he's in a great position. I mean, just moving up positions from that wreck. Started in a great position, in my opinion, at a super speedway, especially on iRacing. In my opinion, I want to start either as back from the pack as I can, or on pole. Something like that can really just benefit you and make you be able to move up positions. Now, just after that wreck, that's why he's in 12th position, and, well, a fantastic opportunity to play with the strategy, stay in line for the time being, and then make his move when need be.
Yeah, now the big question right now, who is your pick to win it? You know, we've been talking about these guys for a pretty long time at this point. Gotta have a pick.
Well, for sure, I've got to have a pick, and my pick, I think, will have to go to none other than, I think that Brandenburg can win this race. The number 17 car here, he sits in 7th position. Hasn't necessarily been talked about too much, but he's just laying low at the moment and just waiting for that right time to really try and go up front. Now, don't get me wrong, the 30 car would be cool for him to win, but my pick's going for Brandenburg.
You know, I gotta agree with you on that. I'd love to see that 17 win, especially coming from so deep in the field. And because look at that, he's been on that outside lane all by his lonesome for what, about 3 or 4 laps now. So he's proven he can hang by himself. Not that he wants to hang by himself, mind you, but he can.
And look at that, he's got a couple of other drivers to help him in that back of the field. He's just, all of a sudden, that second line, yes, they have kind of dispersed, but there's still a 3-car tandem on that outside.
Falkingham going a lap down. He's on that outside lane there. This is going to be a bit of a factor in this race. The 35 also getting put a lap down, as is the 5. And you can see those slow cars do all stay high for the race leaders. Good decision by them. Not sure. Oh, mama. About to say, not interfering, and there's a wreck. Steven Ritter. This looks like the wreck last night where we got no yellow. There it is. It's a slow crash, though. Luckily, not too many cars involved. But I think the 24 is junked.
Yeah, I think he got hit pretty well.
I'm sorry, the 82, Michael Whittaker.
I think Whitaker, yeah, one of those.
Whitaker, rather, yeah.
Yeah, one of those drivers.
The 24.
It just, well, it stinks either way. They were having such a great run, and then it just happened, a couple of moves, and all of a sudden.
Like I said, I'd say the only good thing about this crash, it happened at a somewhat slow speed, so a lot of drivers were able to avoid it, and a lot of the drivers that were in it didn't get too much damage. You see, Gatina got clipped. He got away with minimal damage, that 14 car did. Steven Ritter will get away with minimal damage, even though he went sideways. Watch Steven Ritter spin. It's like watching it happen in slow motion. The way he spins that 16 out. If the 22 of Hightower, Jordan Hightower, hadn't been there, Steven Ritter would have actually had no damage. Hightower just clipped his back end. A little bit of rear end damage there, and thank God they don't simulate having to fuel these race cars or simulate, you know, the mechanics of the fuel thing lock into the fuel fill, because if you look at Ritter's fuel fill, that thing's destroyed. We'll ride on board Jason Lance. He got through this crash. And on board. Remember, he was running in that pack well back of that main group. And you can see he starts slowing down. The wreck at this point, for the most part, has already happened. Elects to the high line, and they come to almost a complete stop. But he'll get through all of it. Under caution, Robert Barber, your race leader. So now these guys will be able to go to the end with them pitting. So it kind of makes Randy Yoakum's strategy, his team, having, making that final pit stop with 1 lap to go to green on that last caution, makes that seem irrelevant. But, you know, they didn't know they'd have this caution, so I think that was a good idea. They still did it. But everyone's going to pit now, and everyone's going to be good to the end, because we saw them go 30 laps last time. We'll have under 30 to go. What do you think's going to happen, Jacob?
Well, I think since he also pitted, guess what he can do? He can also decide to stay out. And so that will be interesting with Yoakum and those drivers who did end up pitting, as long as their cars aren't damaged, or they feel like they don't necessarily need any tires, or feel they can, guess what, stay out and gain that track position. And so that could just be the icing on the cake that can work out in their favor.
Yeah, right now, pacing around under caution. Looks like Barber, one of the few drivers that elected not to pit again. And I believe Yoakum as well didn't pit. And apparently, according to Jackson Royale, I hope I'm saying your name right, but he says Ronnie will be coming back. Ronnie, of course, getting caught up in that incident, and getting caught up pretty bad. You'll notice no front end on the nose of that 24 car, but nonetheless, he will soldier on. Let's talk to Ronnie Royale, as he's got his own fan there. I'd say we'll talk to him if I can find him. You see him in here?
Ronnie Royale. Don't believe I do, but I'll triple check.
Yeah, I don't see him either. Well, we have a backup. And that backup, of course, going to be our race leader. Always good to talk to the race leader. That is going to be, that'll be Barber. So, Robert Barber, have you got a copy on me?
Yes, sir.
Well, you are currently leading the show at Daytona. Looks like you're not going to pit unless you're planning on coming down this time. Well, you think you're going to make it to the end? That's the multi-million-dollar question we're all asking.
Yeah, I've got plenty of fuel. I haven't had to, I've been lifting pretty good back there in the pack, and then I didn't have any damage or anything, so yeah, we're good to go.
Now, how's that car been handling for you tonight, and did you expect to be leading?
I was just really hanging back in the pack. It's handling great. I actually love it. And then right there before that wreck, I went to the outside. Nobody went with me, and I passed about 5 or 6 cars by myself. So I don't have any damage on it. I'm ready to go. Hopefully we can bring it home.
All right, well, where do you expect to finish at the end of the night here?
I'm hoping right where I'm at right now.
All right, well, thanks for talking to us, man, and good luck to you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Robert Barber as they go down the back stretch. So what do you expect to see here on this restart, Jacob?
Well, it is getting later into this race, but I do expect to see a couple of drivers being pushed, especially the leaders on the inside and outside. Just a couple of drivers trying to, well, find their way. We could see some wheel spin. Remember, the tires are a little bit more worn now in this race. Yes, most drivers have gone about 55 laps on them and have not changed their tires, so that's something that we could see a little bit of wheel spin.
All right, well, cars rolling around. I'll let you get the green once more, closing in on just 20. Count them on, well, 2 hands and 2 toes, or 2 feet, however you want to count it, but I'll let you get the green.
All right, sounds good. Pace car is down and away, and we are back racing here at Daytona once again. What a great restart by the inside line.
A pretty great start there, and the question is, do you think they stay double wide for a while? We'll watch this from a chopper cam for a little bit. So what do you think we see these guys do? Go single file or stay 2x2?
Well, I think they'll stay going 2x2. I think the real answer from that first wreck that we had was because they went 3 wide and were kind of checking up. These drivers, when they stayed kind of 2x2 in line by themselves, it didn't really matter. They were doing a fantastic job. So I think they'll stay 2x2, but a couple of drivers will really want to get on that inside line because it seems like it's carrying more momentum than the outside.
Yeah, without a doubt, the inside line always seems to do a little bit better, but for the moment, they seem pretty evenly matched. And you see Robert Barber down on the bottom lane right now trying to make something happen. He's got to contend with Tyler Stevens, and I tell you what, Stevenson's looking incredibly fast. So what do you think for Stevens? Now in the race lead. He doesn't clear him, though, so he won't be able to jump to the bottom.
Yeah, not able to clear him in the meantime. So really, I mean, he'll just have to toughen it out and stay in his own lane, and that might be the key to his success, to make sure that, well, I don't have to get, or I won't get in any wrecks at the moment, as long as I don't make a move like that.
Right here, 58 laps in, just a handful of laps away from 20 to go. Ryan Howard looking to try and climb up through the field. That's the 33 car in 7th place. And he started 18th position, so now we're starting to see drivers fluctuate through the field, you know?
Yeah, exactly, and, well, it's kind of go time. Yes, we're starting to be 20 laps to go. We're just about, basically, and so, well, with only a handful of laps to go, just like we keep saying, it might be time to try and make your move to the front, especially if you're around 15th position, compared to how difficult it has been to really gain momentum or to pass anybody here.
Well, yeah, if you're Chad Cole, Thomas Conheady, or Gail Brooks, or the 22 of Hightower, you're going to want to go right now because you have 21 laps to go at the stripe, and it's probably going to take you 19 of those 21 laps to get to that lead anyway. So it is go time for these mid-pack drivers because it is not easy, and we've seen that here tonight with these cars, especially now that they are, again, 2x2x2x2x2. It is not easy to climb through that field.
No, it is not indeed, and wouldn't that be something to see? A driver who, well, kind of 2 drivers who have stayed here mid-pack close to 15th, 16th position, go all the way up to first and second. That would be something that would be fun to basically see.
Well, look at Chad Cole there. He's in 15th, and what did he do for the majority of this race up until that second caution we had? He rode all the way in the back with his own group in about a 4-car breakaway, and they were, again, a good handful of seconds away from that main group. He can't do that anymore now, though. He's gotten himself to 20 laps to go. Did it cleanly. Not even a scratch on that 21 car. He's got to go to the end, though. He's got 20 laps to go. This is go time.
Go time, but still plenty of laps remaining as well. I know it kind of goes back and forth, but it's just because of how long this racetrack is. It's a 2.5 mile long racetrack. So you talk about that, a super speedway, and well, with 20 laps to go, it still feels like an eternity.
I want to give a big shout out to Daniel Falkingham, because look at his car, Jacob. What do you see missing from it?
I believe I see a hood missing from it.
Well, no, he's got the hood, but he's got no back end, no spoiler, no rear bumper. I guess he's testing out the ultra low downforce package, but he's on the lead lap, and I tell you what, he's holding speed. He's in 20th place. I mean, look at that.
Car, yes,
there's nothing on the back of that race car.
Weight reduction, that is the key to winning a race. I think he can do it. I mean, he's got the help too.
And
he's got the car,
speed.
He kind of stayed with him throughout this whole entire night. So Steve Ritter's right there to have, well, maybe an opportunity to move both him and, well, once again, Falkingham up to the lead.
I mean, that's the most amazing thing to me, is that he's still got the speed in that race car. Now, you know, he's got nothing on the back bumper, but it still goes, and it's still going fast. You know what I mean? He's in that lead pack. If he was out by himself, 10 laps out, I'd be okay, whatever. But he's right there. He's in contention, potentially. So, I mean, hey, it worked for Kyle Larson in Michigan in 2014. Maybe it'll work for him.
Exactly, yeah. 63 laps out of 80 completed, so we're getting closer and closer to 10 laps to go. It's just about 17 to go now.
17 at the stripe. Randy Yoakum going for the race lead here. Does he get it? Yes, he does. I don't know if he'll officially lead that lap. Yes, he did. And imagine if the win is that close as what Randy Yoakum just led that lap.
Oh, I think we can get it even closer, Matt. I think .001 we can get.
I don't think you'd be able to tell that with the naked eye.
Exactly. That would be very
You'd have
crazy
to get the
to
computer.
Watch. Maybe we'll see something like the truck finish, too.
Yeah, well, hey, we saw it last night. When you come to Daytona, you are almost guaranteed a good finish. And you see John Mustaine Jr. in that car on the well outside lane, the LSU machine. He's riding all there by himself, trying to make something happen. I don't think 3 wide just yet. I don't think that would be my call. A little bit too early for that still, but I can see why.
Exactly. You feel like you're not gaining anything, and you're going to try and maybe make a move. It has worked out in the past, but it's very difficult, and there it is.
It's the big one. Oh, man, Steven Ritter's in it. And we were just talking about the driver of that 21 car. We were just talking about Chad Cole, about how he hasn't been in an incident and got through everything by riding in the back. Well, I hate to say it, but he's a part of it. Actually, no, he got through this one. Watch Chad Cole. Not a hard car to see either. Watch how he gets through this. Talk about the expert. I was about to say Chad Cole got his car wrecked there, and I would have been very wrong. We'll watch this from the blimp camera, see how it unfolded. Looked like 3 wide racing potentially got it wrong. The 38 car, I think that is Chad Coleman. He got a piece of it. Jason Lance looks like he set it off. Jordan Hightower involved. Nick Silver. I don't know if Katina got through it. Let's see. What did the 14 do? Nope, he got a piece of it. Mustaine hit him. I mentioned Steven Ritter was involved. And the 7 car, Michael Monsetti. And then Bob Gillenwater. Piece of that wreck. Watch the 99 car, Tommy Ryan. He was your pole sitter here. Tommy Ryan got caught on his quarter panel.
Well, I mean, the good news about that is, just like I talked about, these cars, even in the back end, even in your bumper, can take a bit of a beating. As he is going down pit lane, I believe everyone really is going down pit lane to get, well, maybe some damage fixed, but in my opinion, he could still go out there and be fine and have an opportunity to even race for the win.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. Ryan's got a lot of damage on the back of that truck, car. Tyler Stevens, Randy Yoakum, Thomas O'Leary, Jody Green, Robert Barber, your top 5. Jason Lance, just outside of it. Lance, the driver that inadvertently set off that crash. So we won't interview anyone here. We're going to let these drivers kind of stay in game mode, if you will. You know, they're focused. I don't want to break their focus. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I 100% get you. They need to stay focused. I mean, look at this. Tyler Stevens, according to iRacing, leading Randy Yoakum, and then Thomas O'Leary. Those drivers will not want to be bothered in time. I mean, we're going back racing with close to 10 to go, and that will just be very exciting, and we'll see what these drivers have in store for us.
Well, what do you think's going to happen? You think we have one more wreck in this race, or you think they go green to the end from here?
Well, I think we might see one more wreck, and why I say that is just because a lot more drivers will try and go 3 wide. We've kind of seen that, a couple of drivers wanting to go 3 wide, but I think we'll see more drivers forcing the issue in that third lane kind of coming into play near that wall near the end. And of course, when that happens, drivers trying to check up and all that stuff, we might see one more wreck.
Well, we'll see how it all plays out. And the question is, who's your pick to win it? Who are you going to go with?
Now my pick to win it, I think I'm going to go with none other. I'm going to go with the top 10 driver right now, Thomas Conetti, number 67 car. I think he's put himself in a good position and can, as well, with one more caution, probably move up as long as he avoids that caution. Yeah, move up and maybe take the thunder from Randy Yoakum or even Thomas O'Leary, someone like that, or Tyler Stevens, who looks like they've been in control since the start.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the 20/38, depending on what number you look at, of Chad Coleman. He's had a good speed weeks, and he's been itching for that win. I think tonight's his night. He's going to round out speed weeks with the victory. I'd want to say Joey Gattina, but he's a little too far back in the field. I think he's got a little too much nose damage there on that 14 machine. He's ran good all week, though. That is for sure. We've seen him up front, and he's been definitely a competitive car. I look forward to seeing what he'll do next week in Las Vegas.
Yeah, that's the big thing. If you have nose damage, I think that will always affect you more than if you have rear spoiler damage, at least in this car, just due to the fact of how these cars race. So yes, when you have that front end damage, it is very difficult for you to just continue with that pace that you had since the start of the race.
And right now, 12 laps to go. Lights are out. We'll go green with 11 to go. And That'll be the interesting thing to see here if they go green to the end. And I'm vaguely, well, not vaguely, but I'm definitely thinking we're gonna have at least one more wreck. I don't know what you think, but I don't think we're staying green all the way.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think we'll have at least one more wreck for sure. Just, I mean, it's going to be drivers fighting for positions, drivers trying to get to the lead. It's understandable. You'll try to force it 3 wide, try to get another lane going. It's expected these drivers want to win. It's Daytona. You talk about it every single, well, almost every single race week. They'll just be more aggressive towards the end, so we're expecting to see at least one more caution. Who knows? We might not even have one. They might race aggressive, and they could race clean as well. So anything can really happen. But yes, I do expect to see at least one more caution.
All right. And here we go as they go through turn number 4 for the last time before they take the green. And here we go. Green flag back in the air. Great start. And that was a great restart there for the outside lane. Randy Yoakum got away pretty good.
That outside lane was able to get away, but that inside lane, once again, came right back up, and they're still going to be leading, at least coming through the backstretch with Tyler Stevens right there. And talk about a lot of that checking up. One driver almost stuck in the mid, or almost stuck in mid-pack basically, and that's going to be interesting to see. A lot of drivers just kind of almost getting stuck in the middle.
And right here, it is side by side. The question now, do they wad up and crash in the next 10 laps?
The possibility, but a lot of these drivers are looking good, looking very clean as well, just with the way that they're racing. Yes, a couple of drivers are going down, kind of side drafting each other, but really just thinking, oh, maybe I can make a move to the inside and kind of force the issue.
And right here, it is 2 by 2. And it is the inside Tyler Stevens looking pretty good right at the moment. I think Tyler Stevens definitely has a pretty good potential to win this race if he makes things happen. 9 more laps to go. Stevens on the bottom, Yoakum on the top. He's got Jody Green, Thomas O'Leary, Jason Lance behind him. All these drivers eager to go to victory lane. I tell you, I don't think they're going to make it to the checkered. I think there's going to be a crash.
Well, right now, I mean, they're surprising me. Both lanes are still intact. Yes, there is a lot of side drafting going on. Back up, well, kind of up and down, but it still has been impressive to watch that both these lanes haven't wrecked just yet. So maybe we'll see them go all the way to the end on a green flag, or maybe one last.
Look.
Well, green-white checkered.
Look at Brian Macklin. Where did he come from? He's came back to the front. Macklin said he wants a piece of this action. He's in 7th right now. And he's got he doesn't have a clear path, but he's got a path to the front if he wants it.
Yeah, exactly. Does have a path if he wants to take it. Now, just like you were talking about, there could still be one last caution, and it could come up front here, so he could be in a bad position, but also be in the best position of his life if he avoids a wreck if it does end up happening.
7 laps to go. I guarantee that it's going to be an exciting finish. They're 3 wide. Chad Coleman, Chad Cole, it's Chad and Chad. They're making a 3rd lane, and I tell you, they're not making it to the checkered without a wreck. I don't see it. Jordan Hightower got a little loose there. I think these guys, I think they're just going to be racing a little too hard. You know what I mean?
Exactly. But that third lane has kind of spread out back into a 2-lane road. Yes, there are still a 2-car tandem on that outside line. It's going to be interesting. You don't necessarily want to block at the moment.
And we haven't seen a 2-car tandem really work tonight. We haven't seen that work with these Xfinity cars, but Coleman and Cole are making it work. I'm very surprised, to be honest. We haven't seen that work.
We haven't really seen that work, but what we have seen is a 1-car tandem where a driver feels like he has enough for a slingshot and is able to overtake at least a couple of drivers and get back in line.
They're 3 wide, that entire front pack.
For 2 or 3 cars, it could work just like this.
I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I wanted to drive that point home. Look at this. The entire front pack is basically 3 wide right now. If they wreck right now, that's a disaster.
Well, for sure, if they wreck, it will be a disaster, but it looks like they're keeping it clean, and that's a great thing to see, that 3 lanes can work even with being this aggressive.
Now, I saw Barber get on the apron there, and I held my breath for a second. That was a little bit risky for Barber.
Of course, you want to feel like you still have plenty of room on the racing surface, too, and that can be one thing. Now, talking about it once again, these drivers are on old Goodyear tires, so coming out of the exits, you may see a couple of these drivers kind of losing the back end. They talk about it, going 3 wide is pretty difficult to do with old tires.
And you know what? Not only are they on old tires, they're all on a light fuel load. Means the back end of this race car already is light because it has low downforce, so it's not planted to the ground, and you take most of the fuel out of this race car, that back end's going to want to go slidey all around, and that car's not going to want to stay planted. And there it is. There it is. There's the wreck. Chad Coleman's on his lid. Chad Cole's involved. Macklin's in it as well. Chad Cole's lost the front end. No hood, no nothing. I hate to say I saw it coming, but I saw it coming. Thomas Conheady looked like he made contact. Conheady made contact with the 00. Jordan Hightower got involved. He scraped into someone. I think Katina got a piece of that, unfortunately. But you look at the 00 car, that's where that got set off from. And if I can find the 00, we're right on board. But I mean, I tell you what, I wasn't expecting that, you know?
Exactly, wasn't expecting that as well. It looked pretty good.
Or the 08, I'm sorry. That's Thomas O'Leary in the 08 that got caught up in that. So it looks like Thomas Connery got into Thomas O'Leary. Hightower, he's the one that sent Coleman into the air, just clipped his front nose, and that put Coleman into an airborne situation. So we'll go green-white checker here at Daytona. One of a few attempts, I would imagine. Probably 3 attempts.
I believe it's one of the 3 attempts, and, well, they will get at least 3 attempts. Now, it does depend on the race admin as well if they want to have all 3 attempts or if they want to just have a one-shot green-white checkered as well. So we'll see what it ends up being. As well, it could just be the race ending as well.
David Comstock back out on track. And he was involved in a crash early on. He is 41 laps down, 39th place. With this green-white checker, though, he will potentially pass Josh Parker. That could be a 38th place finish for David Comstock. And you got to feel bad for him. He won last night, and you imagine he was probably looking to go back-to-back, and unfortunately, that's just not going to happen. We're going to dial up. Actually, no, we won't, because like I said, I don't want to break concentration. But Randy Yoakum, what do you think's going through that driver's mind right now, leading the field under pace lap? I'll tell you what's going through his mind. He's probably thinking, I wish we didn't have a green-white checker. I wish this race ends under caution.
Yeah, exactly. That's what all drivers feel at this point. I remember just when I was leading the pack at the Daytona 500, it's the same feeling. It's just you're nervous. You're wanting it to end. You wanted it to end about right. Well, just about right now as they cross the line on lap number 79. But it's just this excitement. It's this nervousness because you don't know if you're going to get that push or if they're going to abandon you right at the last second to try and overtake you for a race win. So a lot of things, of course, are going on your mind. One thing for sure, don't screw up the restart.
And right now, watching these cars pace around here at Daytona. Yeah, and it's interesting. Before we had the green-white checker, if you were in a situation like this where you had a caution with under 5 to go, or if you were Randy Yoakum or a driver in Randy Yoakum's spot, you were happy because that meant you just won the race. If you were a driver in Tyler Stevens' spot, you were thinking, man, I wish they had a green-white checker. Well, now you have a green-white checker, so Tyler Stevens thinking, well, I got one more shot at it. Randy Yoakum over there probably thinking, man, I wish we could have just ended this thing. Because Tyler Stevens gets one more chance to pass Randy Yoakum.
Exactly, one more chance. And when you go back racing, it's still 2 to go. And so it's not even with 1 to go when you cross that start-finish straight. So everything is running through a driver's mind, especially people like Stevens, Green, and even Lance and Ryan in all those positions, just like you said, because, well, they'll still have 2 more laps of an opportunity to really just go for broke, basically.
And right now, 2 laps to go. When we go green, they'll double up. And that's the other thing. You got to keep yourself kind of in check, so to speak. You don't want to think about, well, I have to lead for 2 laps. I have to do this. I have to do that. Because then you're just going to think yourself into a mistake. You basically have to clear your mind and just race. And that's, you have to clear your mind, race, lead the field, not let anyone pass you. So you have to stay calm and still do 1,000 things right and hopefully go to victory lane. So figure that one out.
Yeah, exactly. But one thing is for sure, it just has to be on your mind is get a good restart. I know that clear your mind, but that's one thing that was on my mind is just getting a good restart because that can be the key of a win or also a loss.
And right now, I'll let you get the green when we go green here.
Sounds great as always, as we are on the back stretch close to the bus stop chicane as we just passed that. So very exciting, still plenty of racing remain. I know we're going racing with at least 2 laps to go, unless we get another green-white checkered here, but there's an opportunity that this could be the final restart. And, well, all these drivers will be wanting an opportunity to either win or just get a fantastic finish that they feel is like a win for the opening stage of this season. As here we go, pace car is down and away, and we are racing for maybe the final time tonight.
Here we go, green flag in the air. Great restart there as they go side by side, getting up to full speed now. The leaders are on a breakaway. Do they get to the line? Remember, if they get to the white flag, they race it out no matter what. But they have to get to the white flag. They have to get to the stripe. It is effectively a 2-car tandem for the lead. like we said, we haven't seen that work too well, but those top 6 about have a breakaway. Well, top 5, Tommy Ryan's 5th. 1 lap to go. Whatever happens now happens. Final lap presented by Over the Top Designs.
Look at that outside line, getting that push.
Does Tyler Stevens win it? Does Randy Yoakum win it? Or maybe
with the advantage.
Maybe Jason Lance goes to victory lane. Can't rule him out. He's in that lead pack, isn't he now?
Exactly, as well as Jody Green. Jody Green could make an interesting move where he could end up bumping the 8 up the racetrack or something like that.
Coming to the checkered flag out of turn number 4. Randy Yoakum is the leader. And they're going to wreck. Randy Yoakum out of turn number 4 through the tri-oval. He'll win at Daytona. Tyler Stevens 2nd. Jody Green 4th. Jody Green 2nd. Tyler Stevens 3rd. Jason Lance 4th. 5th place is Tommy Rines, Gail Brooks, Joey Gattina, Chris Stamper, Gregory Bradenberg, Stephen Ritter, Beasley, Edison, Howard, Hightower, Cole, Royale, Silver, Gillenwater, Conheady, Barber, Wilco, Falkingham, Macklin, Cretan, Coleman, McLean, Ayerson, Mustaine, O'Leary, Ott, Monsetti, Whitaker, Fallen, Ryan, Gabu, Jackson, Comstock, Matisse, Parker, Bonwell, Kelly, Runkle, and Formosa rounds out your field. But the man of the hour, it's Randy Yoakum. And we talked about him earlier. We talked to him earlier. We talked to him, asking what he thought of his race, what he thought of his chances. And we asked him if he had enough fuel. Clearly he did. And clearly he'll go to victory lane. Randy Yoakum, how's it feel?
Oh, just absolutely awesome, guys. Just absolutely awesome.
Man, you ran a perfect race there at the end. Walk us through those final few laps.
Yeah, that was, let me tell you something, fellas. You don't do that without great teammates. And, all the guys that helped me to that. I mean, Unacceptable Racing, Jody, Tommy, Tyler, Jeff, Ryan, Thomas, all of them had something to do with it. And, I just can't be any happier right now. First win in Sim500. So you take it when you can get it with as tough as these guys are.
All right. Now, did you expect to go to victory lane here tonight?
You're at a plate track. You don't know what to expect. So that's why it's even a little sweeter when you do that at a plate track.
Now, any sponsors you want to thank? Anyone like that?
Well, I got to thank, even though that I'm not carrying the colors tonight because I'm still waiting for some paint, DJ kind of puts it all together for us with Patriot Fire and everything. You probably see that on most of the cars and whatnot. So shout out to him, and he's sponsoring another series and whatnot. So, that's just a great thing also, a little addition to Sim500. So all good. So appreciate DJ too.
All right. Well, thanks for talking to us, man. Great job on going to victory lane. Hope to see you in victory lane again next week.
Absolutely, guys. And thank you all for what you do too. You make it real. So thanks a lot.
All right. Next up on the interview block, it is Jacob Young.
Good interview.
With Jody Green. Take it away, Jacob.
Jody Green, how you doing?
Oh, man, I'm doing good now. My nerves settled down. Where's the liquor drink?
Well, you finished second place. We're leading a bit this race, but first question, did you think that you were going to survive tonight?
No, when we went 3 wide, I just knew we was all dead because the way this car drives going in the corner, if you put too much wheel in it too soon, it's going to try to jump out from under you. And I hadn't raced around any of them guys that was coming up 3 wide, so I was just hoping that they understood that's what it was going to do too. So, no, I figured I was going to be dead 15 laps ago.
Well, you were able to finish in second, and just basically, how are you able to do that?
Man, when you like Randy said, when you got good teammates like we do, I mean, me, Randy, Tyler Stevens, Tommy Ryan, Jeff Ryan, Brian Fallen, what's that other boy's name? Ryan Howard, Thomas O'Leary. I mean, we all work together from the time the green flag dropped to the time the checker flag stops. And when you mesh together as well as we do, especially at plate tracks, it's you know what you're going to get.
All right. Well, one last question here, of course. How will you be able to take this momentum into Las Vegas?
Oh man, well, you know, like them plating them 1.5 tracks, they're just, you know, you're going to fend for yourself. It's going to be all about tire management at that point. You're not relying on somebody else to help you win a race. So we're just going to go in there and do the best we can. We've had strong cars all through speed weeks in this league and several leagues, and I mean, we're just going to try to get it done, man.
All right. Anyone that you'd like to thank, sponsors, that sort of thing?
Oh yeah, man, most definitely. Patriot Fire, DJ Beverly, Coastal Safety Auditors, Unacceptable Racing, Unacceptable Esports, and like I said, you know, all my teammates: Randy Yoakum, Tyler Stevens, Tommy Ryan, Jeff Ryan, Ryan Howard, Brian Fallen, everybody, man. We can't do it without each other, and we're here every night getting it done.
All right. Well, congratulations on the second place victory. Hopefully, we'll be talking to you next week as well.
All right, Jacob, you and Matt be good, and thank you guys very much for the broadcast too. Appreciate it. Y'all do a good job too, outstanding job, and we'll see you guys next week.
All right, and next up on the interview block, it will be Tyler Stevens, and Tyler, got to be hard finishing third because for a little while it looked like you might have had the win. Tell us about the finish.
Yeah, we when that last caution come out for the green-white checkered, it kind of lined all my teammates up on the bottom, and I was the odd man out on top, so I kind of got the bad end there. But I did what I could, just try to see what try to make something work. But ended up third, which ain't too bad. There's a lot of attrition out there, so it's good to stay out of that.
Now, did you expect the third place finish coming into the race tonight, or are you happy with, happy with where you finished?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely happy with third place just because I'm not a fan of super speedway racing, so to get a good finish out of it, I'm ecstatic. A win would have been really good, but a third place, I consider that a win as well.
All right. Well, anyone you want to thank, sponsors, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I gotta thank Studio 10, Wraps, and RS Center. He provides all the graphics and stuff to keep the paint schemes and everything up and going. And gotta thank Coastal Safety Auditors and Patriot Fire and DJ Beverly. He helps us out a good bit with the team. And Stevens Auto Service, J Green Photography, and it's everybody Unacceptable Esports. We all worked together tonight, and it really showed. So we had a unacceptable top three, and Tommy finished in fifth, I think. So we've been very fortunate.
All right, well, thanks for talking to us, man. Great job on the third place finish.
All right, thank y'all.
All right, folks, and from all of us here at the American Sim Network, we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. I know as much as we enjoyed bringing it to you, don't worry, though. We still got a whole lot more action from Daytona. Tomorrow night, the FEG PC Truck Series kicks off their season with me and Jacob Young in the booth, so I hope you like hearing our voices again. But we'll be at Daytona once more for their season starter, and that starts 9:30 Eastern Standard Time only on the American Sim Network. See y'all then, folks. Have a great night.